Hi, and welcome to the CE Pro podcast. I'm Executive Editor Arlen Schweiger. There have been a number of instances over the years in the custom integration industry of integrators finding success in the manufacturing sector as well. Did you ever have an idea hit you while you were out on working on a project in the field that can strike you as a new problem-solving product to get out there? Well, this week we talked to Joseph Cade of Canadian dealer HomeSync, and he tells us about how his experience with that integration company led to the formation of a motorized shade company, Clara Shades. Joseph Cade, president of Clara Shades. Thanks for joining the CE Pro podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Arlen. Really appreciate it.
So Clara Shades is a pretty new company. Can you tell us a little bit about the company's background and also how it arose from an integration firm?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that. So, like most dealers, and I want to go back into our DNA and where we come from. Like most dealers, we started off in the residential market and servicing luxurious homes, installing fairly large home automation solutions. You name them, Control Fork, restaurant, we've touched them all, right? And we quickly needed to hire staff to be able to, soup up our team and grow our business. And, myself, I was part of the Canadian Forces, a major in the Canadian Forces. And as you know, servicing these luxurious homes, you need people with the right attitude. You need to onboard people that, have a loyalty and respect, but more importantly, that have, a sense of responsibility towards servicing a high-end client. And I couldn't look any further than looking at my colleagues in the military. So believe it or not, the first 10 employees, the first 10 employees but one were from the military. And that's how we built our first batch of employees at the company. And quickly we got involved in the residential space. Then what we realized is that we were wearing these shades and wearing for these motorized shades in these homes, but we weren't selling the shades. So we're like, how about we get into the shades business? And some of these colleagues that are tough and strong-minded come out and say, the shades are for designers. What are we doing selling shades? And we're like, but we're leaving money on the table. Why would we do all this and not be able to sell the shades? I mean, at the end of the line, we're talking about motorized shades here. So
right.
We got into
and
that.
Joseph, just remind us where the company is based, what your specialties are, and what the market is like there for HomeSync.
That's a good question. So HomeSync is actually first and foremost a home automation company. So like most of the SI companies out there. And we're based out of Montreal. We service Montreal, Canada. So we service mainly the greater Montreal area and other parts of the province. But we're a service integrated company that installs and automation solutions, basically. So with that in mind, we got into the shades business, and then what we said is like, okay, there's a shift happening in the industry as well from a market perspective. Like when you're looking at the housing market, a lot of people are kind of living in urbanization of their city, and a lot of these people are moving from homes to these condominiums. And like I know that all these condominiums now have all these window walls that are full of glass. And it was kind of a no-brainer that offering shades in that industry as well was an asset, was a key for us to grow the business. So we quickly got our shades business growing from 30 to 40 to 50%. And today, shades is also a way that we get into, is our foot in the door, and has accelerated not only that side of the business, but also the automation part of it. In fact, in 2018, it's not that we let go our automation side of our business. We've grown this to become the biggest Control 4 dealer in Canada. So if we were able to get in one way or the other, it helped out on both sides, right? So the new buyers, I mean, put yourself in the shoe of a new home buyer. He walks into his house. The first thing he wants to see is that he doesn't want to do anything else, right? He wants the shades to be installed, up and running, and he's good to go. And he goes to bed without having sun, shining down his face. So we worked really hard over the last 5 years, to build a process for the developers. And I think the point where we're at now is we saw an opportunity to, since we were already selling them and distributing them, why not start manufacturing them, offering a product that is turnkey, for that market, and we have a recipe in place, and we want to pass along that recipe to the dealer network to make sure that they have access to these Clara Shades today. And if there's a dealer out there that has, a tower project, a new development going on, and he wants to do shades as basic as it sounds into his project, well, he could give us a call, and we'd be happy to help out and tell him a bit more about how we got into that business.
So can you estimate what percentage of your projects these days are kind of single unattached family homes, and what are the condos, the MDU, that whole area?
Yeah, we can. So it varies from year to year. On average, it's a 50-50 split, right? So some years it's 40-60, the other years the other way around. It depends on the turnaround. Some these condominium projects, their turnaround is like a year to 2 years off. So whereas residential, you're more looking at 6 months to a year sometimes before you get into a project, right? So 50-50, I think, is a good split.
Okay. And so you started as an integration firm, and you had control and automation and lighting control and motorized shades. What were you guys installing, and then what led you to create your own line of shades?
Yeah, it's a good question. So at the end of the line, we are big users of these luxurious shading products out there, and we're not there to replace them, not at all, actually. Taking a luxury offering and moving down the market was the strategy. We wanted to be able to penetrate a more mass market. If you want, we want a product for more of the mass market. There's a thing also in Canada that's happening, is that early next year in 2021, we won't be able to sell any more corded solutions. So corded shades, meaning the ones that have a chain, and the whole purpose is to avoid strangulation to toddlers or babies. And the law came into effect already, but the transition period is finishing next year in May 2021. So that being said, when you're looking at these evolving manual shades or a clutch-based system, they need a bit more technology into them. They need what we call a spring assist system. So the cost of these manual shapes went up a bit. At the same time, the cost of motorization went down. So we're like kind of in a sweet spot where we could probably upsell most of our clients to motorization if we have the right price point. And one thing we learned from COVID is that also having a diversity of suppliers is key. We all know that somebody that depended on only one supplier kind of suffered in that market. And when you're trying to hit that mid market with a product that you're getting supplied from a local distributor, or not necessarily from one of these big players out there, well, some of them got hurt really bad, and they weren't able to get access to their product and deliver it on the solution. So we're just an alternative to the problem and to the solution. And in fact, we're one of the Crestron's biggest integrator in Quebec. We are the biggest in Quebec, actually, and we've got there because we sold the most shades they've ever sold in Quebec through us. So it's not that we're replacing one by the other. It's just that there's that sweet spot, that mid market, where our shades are flexible for it.
Okay, so the other offerings then, in terms of being able to give customers more options and
Exactly.
service a wider range of customers.
Exactly. And you're typically looking at your first time home buyers, they don't want to buy manual shades, but they don't want to pay for the premium shade, right? They want that product that's out there, either it's the condominium or the housing market. There's more windows than ever, right? So people are interested more than ever into shades, and we wanted to cover that mid-market.
Okay, that makes sense. So before we get into the actual offerings, I just want to ask you, in terms of, coming from an integration firm, it's certainly, one thing to be an integrator where, a lot of guys got into it because they have a passion for AV, or they have a background doing some control and just technology in general.
Absolutely.
Plus there's the customer service aspect of it. But what did you guys have to do to learn more about, becoming a manufacturer?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Like any business, passion is key. No one's going to take that away. I mean, to succeed in a business, you got to be passionate. God knows that people in the automation industry are passionate about what they do, right? But, speak to any integrator out there. The key to growth and success is process. You need to have a process in place. And, You know, what we do in automation is kind of take it for granted sometimes in the construction world, right? It's very complex what we do, and sometimes even more complex than enterprise IT, you know? So when you look at what an automation company do, and if we break it down into pieces, you know, they quote, which is already a big step in the process, then they cable, then they install, then they program, and even more than anything else, they have to offer the proper tech support to maintain their reputation. So the guys do it all. And the last thing you want to be in the process is a bottleneck. You don't want to be the guy that delivers their products 5 weeks late. You know, you don't want to be the guys that every time you have to do a quote, I have to send you an email, wait 48 hours to probably get an answer or some questions. So we wanted to make sure we not only introduce a very good product, but a very reliable process. And this is why we built this dealer portal, that it makes it super efficient to price a shade project. You could literally sit there in 5 seconds, you could quote your first shade, and then minutes later, you've quoted a 10 shade project, and you're able to all manage it to the portal and even show it to a client. So say sometimes you're doing your sale through a process where you're selling your automation first and then coming back to sell your shades. Well, you don't need to go back to the office. You've already earned the trust of the client. You've already sold them 50, 100,000, sometimes $400,000 worth of automation. Why not be at his house in front of your portal and be able to show him right there and there the MSRP pricing? If you want to give him a discount, you give him a discount. That's your privilege. But at the end line, we want to make it extremely simple. You don't want to be a bottleneck. The other thing,
Right. So really just
yeah,
making that process as easy as you can for the
absolutely.
dealers.
It's key, especially when you're, you know, our day to day. Like I said, we're involved in so many steps of a delivery. We can't be sunk in by administrative or a very heavy process. But I think to your question, there's another thing that I think was what we realized was really important is that, you know, we had a vision, right? We wanted to build something by dealers for dealers, and you know, we saw at one point, oh, maybe we could sell it to designers, maybe we could sell it to retailers, you know, let's go. And we started going left and right, especially with COVID. We started questioning what we should do. But one thing's for sure is the product, the process was built for dealers. And we are sticking to that vision. And this is what we are going to focus on even moving forward. And the last thing, the thing we learned most is to not get distracted. When you're creating products, you could easily get distracted by, you know, new market, new opportunities, but you got to stick to your core product and your core market to make sure that it works. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the results now.
Great. So let's talk about some of those products. I know you guys have kind of a limited and focused line. Can you just describe some of the products that you have and the options that you have for dealers?
Yeah, I mean, my typical answer to that is like, you know, you give a binder full of colors to a client, you know, you lost them. You give them too many options, you lost the deal. You know, how many times did I put two choices of color in front of a client? I said left or right, and they picked 90% of the time they pick the same thing. So simplicity is key, you know, simplicity around quoting, but also simplicity around choices. You want to keep it simple. At the end of the line, the shade is meant to blend in the wall. It's not a design product, right? It's a simple product that needs to blend in and do its purpose, which is covering the sun and protecting the heat, right? So all the products, what's the beauty is that all the products look and feel the same way. If you're using a manual shade, a battery shade, or motorized powered shade, they all look and feel the same way. Our field experience, all our experience that we have in the automation and in delivering such solutions, you know, allowed us to pick and choose the right products. We haven't just gone out and used the typical motor that everybody else uses, you know. We didn't want to go with a product that we cannot back with our own, you know, by our own company as a quality product that we can service day in, day out. So we have a testing facility in place. We've tested dozens of motors, dozens of fabrics. We want to make sure that what we deliver, we don't need to go back to. So our engineering team works hard at that. And our motor technology is, you know, is up there. You know, we use the same technology that you find in the Savant shades. So I'm sure you're aware about Savant, and you know, when you look at that quality of product, you know, you think of quality of shades that offer quality motorization. So we want to be at that level, and that's what we went with. You know, our lineup is fully integratable with Control 4, fully integratable with Crestron, even with Savant, obviously. And we want to also make sure that in some cases people just want to sell shades, so they're also integratable with the consumer stuff, whether it's the Amazon or the Alexa or the Google Home. It's all integratable with that. So at the end of the line, we wanted to make sure that we had a simple selection, but at the same time we wanted to cover all angles. And like I said before, our wired powered motor is as silent as our battery motor. Why would we, a lot of these motors out there, their battery motor makes noise like there's no tomorrow, right? Well, we didn't want that. We wanted to have a product selection that is even out, and whether you choose one or the other, you feel comfortable doing so. As a next step, one thing we see where that's lagging in the industry is that none of them have, or a lot of them don't have outdoor shade solutions. So the motorization system that we put in place is also compatible for outdoor solutions. Now, we haven't released the offering yet, but we're already fully equipped with our manufacturing plant to be able to accommodate the outdoor solutions. COVID has kind of put a halt to this, but we're moving forward with it in the next few months.
So in terms of the outdoor solutions, what are some of the applications there? Is that like screened in porches, things like that?
Exactly. So whether it's mosquito nets, motorized mosquito nets, shading solutions for your deck or your porch or whatever it is, you want to be able to have a fully integrated solution, whether you're indoors or outdoors. You don't want to have to deal with two different technologies. So the beauty is, again, the motorization, whether it's indoors or outdoors, we're talking about the same technology, the same lineup, and more importantly, the same quality, meaning the same warranty. Our motorization solutions are European. They're not from China. They're literally European, and that's the type of quality we aim to get at the right price. When we look at what we're offering versus what the competition is offering, or even the higher end market is offering, sometimes it's a bit too expensive for that mid-market or that first-time home buyer.
And you talked about having both the battery and hardwired options. Can you just describe a little bit more about the installation flexibility and options that you guys have, as well as colors, fabrics, things like that integrators will be wondering about compared to the competition?
Yeah. So typically when you work with a fabricator or a supplier of shading solutions, you'll get a big binder in which you, for the first few months, you're lost and you can't really figure out which fabrics you want to use or quote. We work the other way around. We will not be sending any big binders to any of the dealers. What we want is that we have four lineups of fabrics, and they grow in pricing, right? So you have from your modern collection all the way to your design collection. We have 4 different fabric lineups, and at the end of the line, what we want is that, to people to focus on their lineups. If they're working a certain vertical, they're going to want to work with that lineup of fabrics. And it's going to be easier. Anyways, when you have a binder, what you're doing is you're pulling out these fabrics and carrying them manually, because you don't want to showcase the full-blown binder to a client, because you're going to lose them in translation, right? So what we're doing is we're splitting it up right off the bat and creating 4 collections in which designers are going to find themselves working with. On the other hand, on the hardware side, we're keeping it simple. 4 colors. You have your white, your typical white, which is probably 80% of the cases. Then you have your ebony black. Then you have your white linen, your beige color type of thing. And then you have your gray, which looks like more of an anodized aluminum finish. So again, at the end line, 80% of the cases are your white solutions. You have your exceptions, but they're there, and we have them in stock, and we're carrying all the products. That's another big thing, is that we're limiting the choices to make sure that we don't have an overhead that's useless. That's why our pricing is so interesting and aggressive, is because we're not overpricing our warehouse and our storage so that it reflects on the pricing of the product.
Now, have you found that in terms of your own integration firm at HomeSync, do you guys work a lot with designers and architects and developers to get referrals for these projects? And are you expecting that integrators will, dealers that Clara Shades signs on will be doing the same things, and Clara Shades will work in terms of being able to pitch those to the architect and design community?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's 2 things to that question, right? There's 2 sides. So first of all, there's, your builders and that usually work with architects and designers for specifying their projects, whether it's in the residential housing market or even in the condo developments. And then there's your typical designers that are more your decorative designers that are out to resell products and, you know, equip the house with furnitures, shading solutions, and so on, right? So first and foremost, you know, the developers and the specifiers, yes, you do want to work with them. You want to work with them as soon as possible on their projects to make sure that they're specifying your product, whether it's preparing the architectural framework, whether it's the bulkheads, the wiring, and so on. You want to make sure that everything's planned for properly. So by understanding what you have to offer, you're able to specify properly. That's how we got into condo towers in Montreal. You know, we were involved in over 30 high-rise condos, right? So, you know, we got involved very early, helping out builders and architects specifying the project. So these people are not out to resell or compete with you when it comes to selling shades. Actually, they want they want your help so that you're able to hopefully get into the business after and sell your own shades. Your question, I think, is more related to the designers and decorators that kind of like are the go-to people right now for when somebody wants to put shades in their home, right? So that being said, you know, yeah, in some cases you are competing against them, but the reality is like we don't think in the future shades will be known as a designer product. I think shades will be known as a technology product. With what's going on in the world of IoT and everything that's being propagated by, you know, Google, Amazon, and Apple as being the default smart home of today, I think people are going to look at, you know, professionals that understand motorization, understand installation process, and more importantly, have the proper team to be able to support them. I rarely see a designer walking around with a ladder and a truck to be able to go up 14 feet off the wall and support a shade, right? And more often than not, even if the designer is out selling the shades, it's always the automation guy's fault, right? So the automation guy is always stuck supporting the client. With that in mind, you know, we don't understand why automation dealers are out there and wiring and sweating, putting up these wires in every single window out there, but not completing the job by selling the shades. They're leaving a lot of money on the table, and there's an opportunity there to sell not only their knowledge, but also their value of supporting a client, not only installing, but supporting as well. And that's what we want to, that's the message we're out to propagate, is that, you know, the dealers out there should be doing an end-to-end solution. They have the opportunity, the customer wants one throat to choke. If you have, you know, the little amount of knowledge it takes to sell the shades and install them, there's no reason why you're not.
Sure. And I think on the design and builder side, you would just hope that, you know, I guess if they're seeing some of these solutions, that they're connecting to the dealers to bring that solution to homeowners, if they're the ones that are able to get you into those tower projects or, you know, those luxury homes and things like that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it goes without saying. I mean, if you bring value to the table, they'll let you in and have a seat at the table to make sure that their building is not just a dummy building; it's also a smart building. Their home is not a dummy home; it's a smart home. You know, I put up a post yesterday on LinkedIn, and it's all about, you know, hey, developers, make sure you have a tech company at your table today, or else you're building a building of, an obsolete building right off the bat. You know, if you're planning to build a building today and it's 3-4 years out, well, you're already obsolete if you don't have a tech company at the table, right? So it's a clean cut message. And I think more and more we're going to see that, and we saw it, is that automation companies became a trade. As much as you had an electrician, a plumber at the table, well, you actually have an automation company now at the table.
Exactly. And like you were saying, in terms of, the condos and things like that, you know, windows are so prominent that automated shades should be among the first things that they think about in terms of all the natural light and the lighting control and how that's all going to tie together.
Exactly. And a lot of these buildings have LEED certification, WELL certification, and, you know, you could measure as much as you want your HVAC system. You know, the sun is bright and coming into the windows like there's no tomorrow. So the reality is that shading plays that role, and there's ways to measure that. And you don't need to get very sophisticated, but the reality is that, you know, shading is a turnkey element of a LEED certification or a WELL certification.
Sure, that's another great point. In terms of Clara Shades' current manufacturing process,
Yeah.
I think you hinted on it a little bit before, but where is it done? I know you mentioned Europe, but in turn, are all the products, all the parts of the products made in the same area? Is this all, it's all third party, or you guys have your own manufacturing warehouse somewhere?
So everything is made, assembled, and manufactured here in Montreal. All right. So yes, we use different third parties, whether it's hardware, motorization, fabrics. We have a multitude of third parties that we worked with. We handpicked every single one of them to make sure we put a product together that is not just optimal for the automation world, but also something that we will be comfortable servicing and supporting down the road. So everything is made here in Montreal. The beauty is that we have a state-of-the-art facility from a manufacturing perspective. Our machinery is fully automated. It's all software-based. So literally in one cut, we could cut 20 shades if we needed to. Sometimes we can only fit one shade, but that's how motorized our facility is. Automated our facility is.
So it sounds like you guys are, have really hit the ground running. Do you have a target, authorized dealer base that you're looking at in terms of numbers, and how does your onboard process look right now?
Yeah. So, right now we're focused in Canada. We're in the 8 major cities across, the nation, coast to coast. Name them, like Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, obviously Montreal, Quebec City, Halifax. We're coast to coast from a Montreal perspective. The idea is to get into the States. We want to get in very quickly. This is the opportunity for us. We had that plan for a year out, but now we're accelerating the plan with the COVID situation. I told you before, we invested a lot on our dealer portal, right? So that is key to entering the market. We want the dealers that want to have access tomorrow to the portal to shoot us an email, and we'll give them access to the dealer portal from an MSRP perspective. From that point on, yes, they will go through a reseller application form. We will be having a phone meeting and everything. And from that point on, we'll get them their proper dealer access based on a tiered. So we have 3 tiers right now. We have an authorized dealer, we have a silver dealer, and a bronze dealer. And what's the beauty about it also is that we also have this program called the deal registration. So if we've been working for months now on specifying Clara Shades and also making sure that our products are what's going to get sold to this client, we don't want somebody else to come and just steal that job away. So if you register your deal, you'll get an advantageous pricing point versus the competitor, and we'll make sure that you're protected from that matter.
Sounds great. And with those different tiers and bringing them on board, what kind of materials do you have in terms of support, product demonstrations for their showrooms, training, things like that?
Absolutely. So obviously, like we have a swatch kit. So basically, if you remember the 4 collections I spoke about, so you would have 4 swatch kits, depending on the ones they choose to work with. The most important thing also is with the dealer portal, which has not only a quick way to quote your solutions, but it also has a knowledge base for you to be able to get access to the data and the spec sheets and so on. After that, we have some, hand-on, physical collateral, which today is not really needed because of COVID, but we do have physical collateral that we could ship out to a client or a dealer that wants to have a better understanding or a graphic look at what it looks like. I think the other thing also, I want to mention is that, for a first dealer, if he wants to equip his showroom, or sometimes they work out of their home, we're giving 30% off dealer cost to anybody that wants to soup up his showroom, to make sure that we get them up and running with at least a demo.
Sounds great. Well, it's very exciting to hear about, and I'm sure it's going to be exciting for dealers to have another really solid option in there, and something that they can use to just widen their portfolio and widen their potential customer base.
Yeah,
Great.
Absolutely.
Joseph, we really thank you for the time and appreciate the time, and good luck with the business.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and inviting me on the program, and look forward to chatting again. Thank you, Arlen.